At this time, we'll call to order the Board of Public Works regular meeting. This is October 9th, 2023. Roll, please, Betty.
Mayor Boyd.
I'm here.
Alderperson Carpenter.
Here.
Alderperson Hansen.
Here.
Alderperson Livina.
Here.
Alderperson Rush.
Here.
Very good, thank you. Next up, public comment upon matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Public Works. Anyone in person or virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? Appears not in here. Anybody virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? This is the second call. For the third and final time, any public comment upon matters not on the Board of Public Works agenda. If so, state your name, please. Very good. Let's go to the items. Item 1, approval of the September 11th, 2023 Board of Public Works meeting minutes. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Rash. Any discussion or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 2, consideration and possible action on award of request for proposal for 2023 pond trapping services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Levin, second by Alderperson Rash. Any questions or comments? Alderperson Hansen.
Just wondering if we did any reference checks on the Swamico trap. I'm just asking because I know the Suburban Wildlife Solution did it the last year or two for us.
Who wants to handle that one?
I guess that would be me.
Eric, it's you.
We haven't, but we have the contractor here.
If you have any questions to ask. I'm not opening up right now. I can't see anything.
Yeah, I guess just kind of an overview of the kind of past work you've done with this type of.
I then make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Rash. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll just have you go to the table right there, sir. Give us your name and address.
Sure.
And then I think you heard the question. So
Yep.
name and address
Yep.
first.
Jeremy Ebner, Swamico Trap, to be 3060 Seafair Way, Swamico, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much. And then it's yours.
So from a reference, I guess,
Or just like, what other communities have you done this type of work in the past?
from Oconto all the way down south through to De Pere. Yep. So privately within the De Pere area, I've done several different commercial structures and residential within this area. City of Green Bay, all over, both private and commercial, industrial services, both from, I'll just say it, anything larger than a squirrel and anything up to a coyote. So I currently do this for several lake associations, as well as just private folks that own ponds.
Nice. All right, thank you.
That's pretty good range.
Yes.
Other questions or comments while we have this meeting open? Appears there is none. I'll make a motion to go back to regular session.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Rash. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Other questions or comments from anybody?
No, I just appreciate the work that they do to help us out. So
And
Very good.
Yeah, I'd like to add on, Suburban Wildlife has done great for us, but we are really excited to have another trapper, submit, because we go out to everybody who's listed on the Trappers Association and we try to get multiple proposals, because obviously it's better if we can get competing proposals for the city to appear. So we're excited that we got another one this year.
Very good. I'm also appreciative that they showed up as well. Any other comments or questions? Seeing there is
Mayor.
none. Alderperson Hansen.
I just want to quickly ask Eric about the list of locations that are on here, at least in the bid. Are we no longer doing the trailside pond?
So we are not necessarily going to do every pond every year. So if it's not on the list, I would guess it's based on the inspection that we did, and we didn't see a lot of rodents. I mean, there's probably going to be some, but we try to mix it around based on what we're getting from our yearly inspections. So we did our inspections this past summer. Whoever did the inspections came back with, and you'll see some newer ponds on here that we haven't done before, based on what we were seeing for rodents. So no, we're not doing it this year.
Because I know some of the condo residents had concerns about rodents on that pond, but if it was just inspected this summer, then that makes me feel better about it.
And,
so.
and if something comes up that we get a whole bunch, we can work with Jeremy to get a price to do it and see where that gets us. Because, these things can populate real quickly.
Yep.
So,
Like rabbits.
yep.
Alderperson Hansen, I'm sorry, anything else that you have?
No, I'm good.
All right, very good, thank you. Any other questions and/or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Does this have to go to council? I see a star next to it, so they understand it has to go to council next Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Item 3, consideration and possible action on preventative maintenance contract for city heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC equipment.
Make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Well, second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, second by Alderperson Rash. Any questions or comments? I know Tom is here if you have something. Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, Main Avenue Underpass No-Mow-Summer evaluation. I do know we have Marty, I think, out there. Marty, are you there?
I am.
Marty, would you like to read the memo that you sent? At least we can kick off the discussion, please.
Sure. So at the previous Board of Public Works meeting, the Board of Public Works approved allowing Main Avenue Underpass to grow naturally. As part of the action taken, you also requested that staff monitor comments and complaints throughout the summer and report back at the end of summer. Below is our evaluation notes from the summer. The MSC did not receive any calls or complaints with regard to the Main Avenue Underpass being left to grow naturally. Several minor concerns were brought up from staff regarding the natural growth. Those were the grass that would fold into the roadway that should be maintained, and then periodically trees will sprout up, and those should be snipped before they can establish.
Thank you, Marty. Scott or Marty, I guess I can do it as well. A little background as to why we did this. We just all of a sudden decide not to cut it anymore. Can you just give a little bit of background history, what brought us to this point? Who wants to do it, Marty or Scott?
Yeah.
Marty.
I can chime in, and if Scott wants to piggyback, that would be great too. I know from the Parks Department, we were provided the task of maintaining that hillside. And the hillside becomes a very, very challenging task to maintain on not only on a one-time basis, but a regular basis. And a short time ago, I want to say about a year or two ago, we had a pretty significant injury that occurred on the hill. And HR reviewed it and had suggested that we find alternatives to having that maintained. We have looked around, we've talked with contractors. Nobody is interested in maintaining that and trimming it so that it's clean cut and aesthetic. So in talking with the new landscape ordinance that occurred, we felt this would be a great opportunity to embrace that landscape ordinance and also reduce some significant risk to staff when they were going out and maintaining this hillside.
Thank you. In addition, we also have interruptions with traffic because we have to block off traffic as well on each side of the road. Scott, can you possibly add into it? Main Avenue is Highway 32, Statewide Highway 32, and we're going to have something done to that over the next 3 years or so. Can you explain that as well?
Right now, is part of the going through the design process when they redo Main from 3rd to 8th, we've asked the DOT to analyze the slopes. Explain to them we got difficulty maintaining the slopes, and we've asked them to come up with some type of a plan for, a particular landscape plan that would be zero maintenance on that. So that'll be evaluated through the design process.
And there's a chance the state could pick that up, correct?
Chances are the city would have to pay 100% for that.
Okay, well, so we're there with that. So I tried. We tried. We always try. I mean, I guess there's hope as well that underneath the overpass to train, there could be a 4-lane road. We do know that's pretty expensive at $10 million as of right now. It's not in the budget. Sorry, Alderperson Hansen. Not that we're not trying, and we can't plead to our local representatives, which we should and we will. So that's kind of the history of all this. Biggest being, of course, that it is a hazard, and I don't think it's prudent for us to put anyone on that hill to cut that grass. So this was a solution we came up with. Scott?
And then one thing I just add to the board, just a reminder, one of the things that were a hazard that the board and the council agreed to is we're removing that sidewalk and closing it down that goes along Main Avenue under the bypass. And then the DOT is actually, when they rebuild the street, that sidewalk will be totally gone, and then all the sidewalk up on top will be redone, and that'll be the pedestrian pathway to come around to get up back over to Reed Street.
Thank you. Now, with the background information we have as to why we are here right now, please note that this is just taking a kick at this right now. There's no action we will take, but we certainly can discuss it to look for ways to improve. So we're going to call this an evaluation. So I open it up to everybody and anybody. Any comments or questions folks have right now as we move forward here with this? Alderperson Carpenter.
I'd like to make a motion if somebody'd like to speak to open the meeting.
We can. I know he's there, and I thought maybe you guys want to say something
maybe
first.
we'd hear what per individual has to say before I make any comments.
Very good.
Second, Dan.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, second by Alderperson Rash to open up the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I've got one person. I'm assuming this is Bill Van Camp, correct?
I don't know if you really want me to get on this subject because it's a very sore subject.
Okay, why don't you come on up, and we need your name and address just for the record, please.
Bill Van Camp, 633 Main. Been living up on top of that hill for over 42 years.
Okay, so how it works is during open session, you have 3 minutes to speak. Give your piece, whatever it is, and then we can go from there.
Well, I'd just like to know. They used to cut the grass yearly. They always had, you guys even bought a remote control lawnmower. Don't understand why you're not using it. Years ago, they used to tie the lawnmower up. My daughter brought it up to me tonight. She finds that very comical that you always tied the lawnmower up, but you never tied an employee up to work out there. There's no excuse why that lawn's not cut. We're starting to see rodents again. The neighbor's seen a couple, not muskrats, weasels. We're starting to see that. It's growing over the sidewalk. I don't do that. The neighbors, there's a few neighbors that are that upset. They're not going to cut their grass until you guys do something. If you had it in front of your house, you don't want to look at it every day. I don't know what other excuse you can find. I get it. Somebody got hurt, but that's the first time I heard it in 50 years. Somebody got hurt. We really appreciate if you guys could find a way to clean that up. It is an eyesore. And to back up, I got a petition going earlier this summer. I had over 15 neighbors sign it. Unfortunately, I think the Packers all ruled tonight that I couldn't get them here, but they all signed it. And I know it's Dylan turned it in. I'd like to know why. Our answers, we got people out there that are upset, and you're saying that nobody's complained. I don't know what else to tell you, but we'd like some action done on it.
All right, thank you. Anything else you want to share?
No.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your comments. Appreciate it.
I'll make a motion to go back to regular order.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Rash, second by Alderperson Carpenter to go back to regular session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, other comments that we have. Alderperson, which one wants it first? Same time it went up.
Go ahead if you wish.
Alderperson Carpenter.
So Scott, when we closed it off or mowed the side of the hill, did we have to create detours for traffic? Or did we just narrow down the lanes and still have traffic go through? That's my first question.
We had actually, depending on what side of the road we're on, we had to close the lane and actually shift the traffic. So it's actually major traffic control we would have to set up under the bridge for maintaining the slopes.
So when you say major traffic control, I'm asking, are you then detouring the traffic down Allard Street or another street
No.
to get around?
No.
Okay. So then my question is, we have that mower with the extended boom on it. Is it possible that that's going to be a rough looking cut, because that's what it is, it's a brush cutter. Is it possible, I don't know if that would pacify or please people, to take that arm and reach up there quite a ways up?
It would only go up so high and wouldn't reach up the, it might get a quarter way up the hill, up the slopes.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderperson Rash, you're up next.
So I know Marty's probably still on, and I agree with the resident. I still think, in all the years that we've had, that we've mowed that, we had an injury a couple of years ago.
We had a significant injury a couple of years ago.
We had an injury a couple of years ago, and I appreciate injury is an injury. My question would be, the injury, was that the result of lack of training? Was that the result of lack of safety initiatives from the city to have people doing it correctly? So how do we do it for 45, 50 years with limited to no injuries at all? We have a significant injury and we shut it down. That would be like saying, we had one police officer involved in a traffic accident because of a certain type of maneuver that they were taught to do, but now we're going to stop having any of those maneuvers anymore in the city because we had one injury. So my question is, what did we do as a city to look at the situation and not just say we had an injury, but that maybe there was something more we could have done differently besides just shut down the whole thing? Because I agree. I don't think it looks good. I agree that it's probably picking up the rodent population quite a bit, whether that's weasels or rats or mice. They love that kind of atmosphere. But what is it that we did for 45 or 50 years that now all of a sudden it's not working? And we've got better equipment today and better technology, better resources from a safety standpoint. So I think there's got to be a better answer. Now, I am looking forward to when they redo that road, because then we can obviously build something that's low to no maintenance that we don't have to worry about anymore. But right now, we did it for years, and now we can't do it all of a sudden. That's what is confusing me about it.
And that's a question, I believe, to Marty, correct?
Correct.
Marty, did you catch some of this?
Yes. So the base question, I think, Dean, you're asking is what did we do differently now that we did 40 years ago, so that now that we have to change things? And I do believe the answer is that we have not done anything different other than try to improve how we go about maintaining that hillside. And the gentleman actually brought up, we have a remote control mower that we purchased to try to take away a lion's share of the slope mowing. But, I think the injury that occurred, I'd have to go back and take a look at the actual incident report. I wasn't prepared for that tonight. But the injury that occurred was a gentleman that blew out his knee due to the incline. So I don't think it was a lack of training. I think it's just happened to be poor luck with the person and the slope that they were on, and the knee just gave way. I don't know if I answered your question, but I really don't think that we are doing anything differently than what we've done many moons ago, other than we've been able to do it better and safer than what it's been done 20, 30, 40 years ago.
So Marty, knowing the type of injury it was, it doesn't sound like it was anything safety related on the city's side. It sounds like it was something related, and I'm not meaning this in a negative way, but something related to the individual, whether it was a pre-existing issue, whether it was just stepped wrong. We've even got an alderperson sitting on our panel that stepped in an odd fashion at the dog park and broke his ankle. Did we shut down the dog park because of that? So I think there's probably more extenuating circumstances here that lead us to believe that we probably could have kept the mowing process going and just look at maybe how to do things a little bit differently. But we were able to do it successfully for all those decades, and now we had to stop it. And I think that's what's concerning the residents that live there. And I do agree with them. I think that's something that we should be doing to mow it. If there's ways we can do it a little bit better, that's great. But I don't know that this was a result of having to mow on the side of a hill with equipment. I think there's probably more to it than just that. Just my opinion on that one.
Okay. Marty, you want to add to that or just kind of leave it at that based on what he had said? Again, we're just talking tonight.
Yep.
No, I was just trying to answer Alderperson Rosh's question as best I could.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I didn't mean to bring up an alderperson with an injury, but it's the same kind of situation in some sense.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Again, we're stuck in the same spot we were before in that we have an unsafe slope. We have injury, and I'm sure there were injuries, but I don't have that in front of me right now. We have staff who really don't want to do it because of the unsafe conditions that it presents. I've actually had a couple of emails and phone calls over the years from residents complaining that they saw people on the hill and a lawnmower tied up and how unsafe that looked. So I got the opposite over the years. Now, it didn't mean that we had to stop doing it. It's just the only complaints I ever got was, why the heck are we doing this? I got to be honest. Aside from that, I got nothing else. Obviously, I'm not doubting these folks that they're not concerned. I honestly think that we should look at ways, to make it better, being that we, clean up alongside the road and take the trees out of there and any noxious weeds. If there are rodent issues, we should monitor that. We can't dispute
just had
that.
our trapper here.
I know, he was just here. We can't dispute that as well. But first and foremost, in my mind, for our employees is their safety. And if they have concerns, that I take that very seriously. Now, that said, it doesn't mean we can't look at other ways to try to address this to make it work for everybody. So other questions or comments as we're still evaluating, and we as staff will continue to talk about this as well too, taking this information in. Alderperson Carpenter?
Yeah, I mean, when they're taking this all in, why don't we just spray it and make it brown?
I mean, again, we're throwing,
I'm just
literally
I literally
throwing
mean
everything
this.
out.
I literally mean
Yeah.
this, that takes away you don't want a rat infestment.
Sure.
We totally don't want that. We don't,
Yeah.
Green Bay's got it, and we definitely don't want that running in our neighborhoods.
I mean, my hope was, quite honestly, if 32 wasn't coming through in 3 or 4 years or whatever, I think we'd be in a different place right now. We'd be looking at ways to budget to do, proper landscaping for zero maintenance and or what you're saying. I think everyone's on the same page. We want this to look good. We don't want to spend money that we're just going to throw away in 3 years. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we're really kind of stuck right now. I don't think anyone wants to endanger the workforce and get anyone injured. We'd feel horrible about that. And accidents do happen. We take that in consideration. So what do we do as a balance until that time? And that's what we're trying to look for right now. We did this for a reason, to talk about this, to see how this is working. It doesn't mean that it has to be perfect, because it won't be for a while. In my perfect world, I'd love to put $1 million in the budget and say, let's slope this thing and make it look beautiful. Honestly, I would love that. It just wouldn't make sense right now. So we need something in the short term.
But James, at the same time,
Spraying it and making it brown, I'm liking that, yeah.
but at least at the same time, we can't ignore it.
I don't disagree. Yeah.
I'll tell you, if you're sitting there with a rodent problem,
Yep.
you're paying for it for yourself to get rid of it. And having had that situation in our home, it's like $40 a month to maintain, to make sure that they don't come back at that point. So you've got people that are going to spend $500 to $1,000 a year because of something that we neglected to take care of. So maybe, in all honesty, we do have to have the trapper that is going to set and kill in that area at a starting point. But I don't know why we can't even go through there with weed whackers and have people walk through with weed whackers and take out some of the bigger stuff and just at least knock it down to a reasonable height with a trapper on top of it. But we got to do something different versus just ignore it.
I appreciate all the comments. So I think what we should do then is, and we'll say anything else, because we're taking all this stuff down. And this whole idea was to talk about this, look at potential solutions, how we can do things differently, etc. I think everything should be on the table. I don't think anything changes right now. Obviously, there's no action item in the fall, in the winter. We're looking toward the spring, obviously. So this discussion should continue.
So we should have this discussion again then January, February, before things get way out of whack.
Sure.
And see what with the park.
Sure. I think we take all.
What the game plan is. We should at least know what kind of game plan, and if we want to keep going, because this was a temporary 1-year thing. So let's get it resolved early.
And then
enough
from
in
this,
the year.
maybe we have other solutions or ideas that we don't know of when
Right.
staff takes it back and say, okay, this is what we can do in the meantime, just to do things a little bit differently, to address some issues and concerns that we might have.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So Scott or
And I'm just
Alderperson
going
Rash?
to say, between now and that point, I just hope that we're not starting to see nesting of some of those rodents happening in the residences, garages, houses, spaces that they may store stuff outside, because that will be pretty significant if that happens this year.
So, Scott, Marty, everyone, do we kind of hear what's going on here and then, come back again, say January, February, or at least in the meantime, take a look out there and see if we have some issues? Marty, you want to take that?
Well, yeah, I guess for clarity's sake, it is my understanding that the Board of Public Works, because while we maintain it, it does fall under your jurisdiction, and they provided the direction to allow it to grow in a natural state and come back and report. So that is my understanding. Unless the Board of Public Works would provide a direction of how they would like to see it maintained, we're gonna try to obviously evaluate our process and make it better. But I don't know if we would change anything. And it sounds like that's hopefully the expectation from the Board of Public Works. But I guess I would like to ask and state that if we're taking direction from the Board of Public Works of how they want it maintained. So, we would ultimately need some direction from the Board of Public Works of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Okay, and since we
Yeah,
have...
so
Yep, go ahead, Marty.
No, that was it.
Okay, since it's evaluation only, we can bring it back then and have more guidance that we can give based on information that we get possibly from staff. Alderperson Ledma?
And just for clarification, though, we're only talking about this because of the information we received from staff about why we shouldn't cut it anymore. We didn't, as a board, didn't bring this forward and say,
Right.
we don't want to cut this anymore. So I think something needs to come from staff as to some solutions as, what we've talked about here. Because I'm not qualified to come up with those.
Marty, does that make sense as well? In other words, is there a way we can get some kind of guidance to make an educated decision as to what to do? To give you direction, not that you have to do it.
Well, I do believe if you allow us some time to brainstorm, we have some pretty smart people on staff of how it can get done, what the impact is. There's obviously other... there is equipment, I'm sure, that is out there that could handle this job, but it's probably equipment we don't have. But yeah, given time, we can do some research and figure out how we could have it mowed, maintained, or but we can certainly do that and bring it back.
That'd be great, and maybe we'll just set a deadline sometime in February, unless you don't want a deadline. These guys want deadlines. Would that be okay a few months out, Marty?
Well,
I don't want to hamstring.
Yeah, ideally, we want to try to have something so that we're prepared and ready for spring.
Okay.
So, February, to me, probably in the next couple months, we'd like to have staff do some legwork and come up with a proposal.
Sounds good. Well, then let's leave that to you, because obviously, that's what we'd like. Alderperson Carpenter.
Yes, then I would like to see Eric and have that trapper go through that area and check that out also. It would be my suggestion. We're under budget above what money we put in there. And he just made a comment, if there was ponds that have issues, you could hire them out if you have to. So if we don't have anybody on staff to say there's rodents in there or anything else, I guess we have to depend on a professional.
Eric, I'll defer that to you. I don't know if that's to come back, or what are your thoughts?
So you're thinking just have them come through and look to see what's going on initially? Is that what your thought
Yes,
is?
to
Yes.
see if there's
Sure.
a rodent problem.
Sure.
And if there is, then he can advise you.
We can definitely do that. Because again, from a funding standpoint, our trapper is funded through our stormwater utility because it's all pond related. But we could definitely ask them to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Alderperson Ledma.
What happened to our remote control mower?
Marty, what happened to the... Well, I know it had some issues, but Marty?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What happened to the remote control mower?
Oh, we still have it. The remote control mower is still in our fleet. However, it is getting old and tired. And if we really look at continuing using the slope mower for the extent that we used it, it will need to be replaced. And I don't know if people have seen the cost of slope mowers, but they're probably in the neighborhood of between $30,000 and $50,000. So, but we did not propose the replacement of the mower because we knew this was occurring, and potentially we may not need it in 2-3 years when Main Avenue is redone.
Sounds good. Thank you. So again, I think what we do, Alderperson Hansen.
Yeah, just to clarify, Main Ave, I think 2028, so it's still...
Right, but design phase
Yeah,
starts
that's
up
true.
before that, so I always think of before that.
Can staff try again to see if they can get any contractors who might be interested, especially if we pay a premium for this? Or is it really seeming like a lost cause?
We can always go back out and try. There's no reason we can't go out and ask. We've done it probably 2 or 3 times over the last 10 years and never had any takers. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't have a taker if we went out tomorrow and tried to find somebody.
I know insurance is a big deal for them. It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And that's what they've said in the past. As far as direction, everyone okay with that? We're just talking at this point, so we'll come back in February or sooner. It's your timetable, Marty, okay? I'll stop saying that. All right. Okay, good, everybody? Any other comments, questions? All right, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Let's move to the next one. Alderperson P-Rock, thanks for coming in too. Yeah.
Thanks for dressing up.
Wait, you're not leaving? Item 5. Consideration and possible action on city engineer parking and traffic recommendations. Eric?
All right, so just so everybody understands, because we've had a couple come in recently for parking and traffic, but this is from our July 19th meeting, and I was not at the August meeting, so then we carried it forward, and September got busy anyway, so I'm a little behind. So that's why you don't see some of those things on here. But
Well, I appreciate you getting to my request, though, Eric.
When don't you have a request?
So the first one is to consider additional crosswalk signage or sign in the middle of the road on George at Washington, particularly because apparently this is a primary route that kids use in the summer, which kind of does make sense if you look at it on the map. And currently it has the crosswalk, but it's not signed, and it does have adequate night lighting. The ADT on George Street is a little higher, 7,600 vehicles. Right now, we really don't have a policy for where we put those signs in the middle of the road. And I think over this winter, we are going to talk to Tony about them because they're expensive and then we get them stolen and run over every once in a while. But anyway, so for right now, and I know there's not a lot of time left in the year, but we are recommending to put one of those in the center of the road for this location.
Sounds like a great idea. Do we have another one you said, or is that it?
That's the only one for a recommendation.
All right. Alderperson Hansen.
Can you clarify, Eric? You mean like one of those, like, right? So you're saying like in the center of the road, like the ones on Broadway?
Yeah, that would be like the ones on Broadway. And, you know, the person that was interested in it said it was primarily for kids during the school or the pool season anyway,
Yeah.
so it fits perfectly. I mean, really, George Street, especially in the downtown area, has pretty good adherence to the rules. If you pay attention, drivers are watching for pedestrians, at least down by, you know, Superior, Huron. They're really paying attention now. I don't know about up there, so I think it's a good fit to put that sign in the middle of the road.
As did that resident, so thank you.
Yeah, I do too. I think that is a good idea. Do we need a motion and a second on this one?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Carpenter, second by Alderperson Rash. Any additional discussion and/or comments? That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, discuss city engineer recommendations on no action parking and traffic discussion items. Eric.
Okay, so the first one is we had another request to consider restricting parking on 9th Street in front of the entire post office and in that area in general. The thing we did, parking was restricted in front of the post office a couple years ago. So right now, and this is the exit drive at the post office, so right 35 feet south of the apron where it flares out, we do have it restricted right now. And in you know, from a visitability standpoint, you compare this to even pulling out some of the side roads onto George Street, you have more visibility here than you do in a lot of the areas in the downtown. 9th Street is 44 feet wide, face of curb to face of curb, which is adequate for parking on both sides. And again, like we've talked about, we like to encourage parking on some of these streets because it does deter speed. And 9th Street, particularly the south, is where we get periodically complaints about speeding. We did take a look at accidents, and there have been 4 accidents near that location in recent years, according to the police. 2 in 2020 that were non-reportable with no injury. And then 1 in 2022 that was non-reportable, and then 1 listed in the parking lot, which doesn't really count. But the non-reportable accidents are generally low on damage and can be described as fender benders. So from a police standpoint, they're really, really low and not significant. So we're not recommending any change out there. I think the changes we made a couple years ago is working good. So I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Any questions on that one before we go ahead?
Okay. And then we had a request for a rapid rectangular flashing beacon on A Street at Cedar. So we did go out, Betty did go out and do a pedestrian count. We did it early in the morning and then, not early, but we did it, like before school, through the school period, because we're trying to pick up people going to school. And then we did it again kind of in that after school period. Numbers are very low. Generally, we're looking for 20 people in a given hour, consecutive hour, before we put RFBs in, because again, we want to emphasize these in high impact areas with a lot of pedestrians and a lot of cars. So it doesn't fit the criteria. We're recommending no action on that.
Questions or comments on that one? Alderperson Hansen.
Yeah, I agree with, reserving the RFBs for more high impact areas. I did see a story recently though that Green Bay is going to be putting up tons of them. So I think that might lead to more requests, that we might get. I don't know if they have different criteria than us, but I did see that. So
I'm sorry, what city? Green Bay?
Green Bay.
Oh.
You're just trying to catch up with us. That was a joke. That was just a joke.
No, I agree with you.
I live in Green Bay. Right?
Thank you. Other comments or questions on that one? All right, next.
All right, and the last one, there's just, there's a lot of signs out on George Street, and one of them was to take a look. It's not too significant. Let me see if I can find, there's my street view. It's one of these because, again, that request came through that we talked about at George and Washington, putting the sign in the middle of the road. So then there was some other questions about some of the signs in the corridor. And the question was this sign right here, which it's got the pedestrian, and this is at Ontario. And it says, crossing ahead, but technically it's behind the crosswalk. But I think they did it there just because there was an existing light pole and they didn't want to have to put a new light on or a new pole up, a new, a specific post. Anyway, so, I get that it's not quite perfect, but I think overall there's crosswalks throughout the corridor, so we don't really see a need to put another post in through the colored concrete, so we were just recommending to leave it as is.
So Eric, technically, isn't that sign for procrastinators?
Yes.
And I mean, it could be for the George Erie intersection.
In all honesty, it could be tied in also to the fact that you got the entire corridor, that you got the school coming up and things like that. In fact, one of the things we're going to be talking about in our meeting coming up in our next meeting for parking and traffic is coming up in 2 days, talking about schools, Notre Dame school, the school zone around it, because there is some signage on George, but there isn't on the other street. So this could also be related somewhat to the school, because a lot of times you'll see these by schools, kind of letting cars know there's a school zone coming up.
Alderperson Rash.
Speaking of the school, and I know this is probably not on topic, but did we ever get the 3-hour parking signs in place in front of the
Yes.
school? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Going very well.
Yeah, yes, we did. Thank you. No, it came through and I forwarded it, but I waited until school was out. And then I did contact the school to let them know after school was out, so they knew ahead of time so they could let everybody know. But
Yeah, because technically that's what it was supposed to be the whole time, and that's where those complaints about teachers parking there all day. And
Yeah, I think it's gone very well, actually.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
and we haven't gotten any complaints from the school either about, not being able to park there.
Okay.
Other questions or comments on that?
I'll make a motion to go with staff's no action.
Second.
We
Motion.
don't need a motion
need
for
a
that.
It's just
Okay, there we go.
discussion.
Discussion, there we go.
Yeah, but he wants to.
I'll second it then.
No, we're all good, let's move
Oh,
on.
sorry, Shane, I'll third.
All right, thank you. All done with that then, guys?
Yes.
Chase is like, seriously, what the heck's going on here? Yeah.
Without a vote.
We can
Sorry.
move it on.
Up next, item 7, consideration and possible action on 2023-2024 sidewalk, snow, and ice removal rates. Who has this one? Oh, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Ledvina. This is the same old. Any questions or comments?
Looks good.
Oh, I have.
Alderperson Hansen.
There was discussion last year about whether or not we give residents a warning before we shovel for them and bill them. I'm wondering if we've made any changes to the policy to make sure
We
that
are
it gets
not making
efficiently.
any changes.
Okay.
I think part of the reason is just the staff time and monitoring, et cetera. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So how do they know? I know it's supposed to be. So how do they know?
When they get a bill.
They're supposed to have it done in 48 hours.
Yep.
So that the
It's-
knowing is if you don't have it done in 48
It's an
hours.
ordinance.
And it's complaint driven, correct?
Complaint driven, and typically what's happened over the years, what we've done probably a couple of years ago is our city forester will knock on a door, and if somebody's there, hey, we got a complaint, we're coming back to shovel, boom. If nobody's, home, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we can't deliver that, and then basically we come and do the removal and we send them a bill.
And I assume chances are that doesn't happen again.
95% of the time it does not happen again. We do have a repeat property violators that, that does occur.
Other questions or comments? Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item A, consideration and possible action on approval for October 2023 Foundation Drain Disconnection Program resident correspondence. Chase.
Thank you. So a couple parts to this memo. First, I want to start out with staff was able to estimate.
I don't think
Is
the
your
mic's
mic- is your
working.
mic on?
Hello. All right.
Sorry.
So a couple items to this memo. First, staff was able to get data from New Water, who treats our sewage, and our water department, who meters out the water that we're billing to our customers in the city, to estimate the cost of I&I on an annual basis. So between the two entities, on average, we have a discrepancy of about 720 million gallons of sewage on an annual basis. Water going into a home is being metered by our water department. That water goes in and comes right out. We can't create more water. So that discrepancy is then generally estimated to be inflow and infiltration, which is clean water entering our sewers and making it to the treatment plant. This water is clean, so it's not carrying suspended solids, phosphorus. It's negligible amounts of pounds that they got to remove from this water. So if we take the volume treatment rate that New Water provides us at about 75 cents per 1,000 gallons, you can then extrapolate that we're spending roughly $500,000 on an annual basis treating inflow and infiltration that's entering our system. So I wanted to share that data with you all. Second, we provided a letter that we'd like to send out to residents this coming month, providing an update to the FDDP, the Foundation Drain Disconnection Program. The letter will direct residents to go to our website, where we'll kind of centralize all the information with the new policy that was approved by both Board of Public Works and Common Council. It'll direct them to get the plumbing permit through our building inspection program, to hire their own contractor, to get quotes and lead the program on their own. Once they get the building inspection plumbing permit, our building inspector will then inspect work that was done, and then they can request reimbursement through Public Works. So the letter's attached here for your consideration and comments. If approved, we'll then hopefully send this by the end of the month for everybody. Feel free to jump right in.
All right. Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Alderperson Ledwina.
The letter,
Yes.
the foundation drain, I think really confuses people.
Yes, the floor drain and foundation drain
Yes,
get
I think
mixed up.
this requires a little bit of explanation. I know these people have received a letter like this before, but
Yep.
I don't think it would hurt to define
Yeah, I can
what
add
you're
that.
talking about. The other thing, you've got in bold on here, some pump installation is not being mandated at this time, and then below in item number 2, you have what would be reimbursed when they're mandated. I just think that looks a little confusing. If someone's just skimming over it, they're going to be like, what's this 50% part? So I don't know if you could explain that. Maybe
can-
separate that out a little bit and say, once we are mandating
Okay.
the installation, this is what you would be looking at.
Well, it does say a mandate will go into effect the paragraph after that, though.
Right, but she's saying if people are just skimming through the letter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just think to make it as clear as we can, that it should maybe explain that a little bit.
Yeah, we can review and clean that up.
Otherwise, I thought it was good.
I've never seen the word pertinence. That's a good word. You guys see that word right there?
Yeah, I see it.
Anybody? Alderperson Hansen, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, that paragraph with the pertinences, we need a space after the 1-2, and then it looks like the font is smaller than the rest of the letter.
Okay.
In the exemption section, you do mention if it's on a slab or a crawl space. I'm wondering if we should also add in could apply for an exemption if you have a fieldstone basement.
I considered adding that language to this letter. I didn't want to muddy the waters. We're directing them to go to the website where they'll see that policy. So if people do have fieldstone basements, we're not hiding that info, but I just don't want every resident to see that and request an exemption. Most properties would not be applicable for extension or exemptions as it is.
And then also, I know one of the questions I got quite a bit was concerns about the timing of the payments and, working with the contractors so the city can reimburse the resident before the bill comes due. So giving them like 30 to 60 days to pay the bill. Do we want to mention anything about that in here?
It's going to be really contractor dependent. The city doesn't really have or doesn't have control over what's happening on the private side of things with this or how the contractors are billing this work. We're here as a resource if the homeowner wants us to talk to the contractor and work with them for this process, but I could have 100 different contractors come in and do this work, and I can't really control each and every one of them.
The one thing we could do is look at how long we think it'll take us to issue the check once the invoice comes to us. I mean, that's something we could try to clarify. And like Chase said, if we put too much in these letters, it can, but we can definitely try to put something on our website. We're trying to build this, or Chase is building this as we go here and providing you updates, and then we go back and build some more. But yeah, we can look at that.
And then last thing, the list of contractors that have done this type of work in the city in the past, do we have a timeline yet for when that's going to be ready to share with residents?
We can probably get that around the website right now. I don't think would take too much to assemble. We've done a similar list in the past, so we'll just be going through and re-verifying that those contractors would apply.
Because I already have a resident in South Erie who wants to start doing this as soon as she can, and she doesn't know where to kind of begin with.
Right. No, our intent is to direct people to the website. The last letter had people calling me directly, so I took about 900 phone calls. So I would like to more centralize everybody to go to one spot, and then I'm here as a resource moving forward.
They'll have their questions answered then, most likely, right?
Yes.
A high percentage will.
Right.
Yeah.
We should let them know you can take up to 2,000 in a week.
Whatever needs to be done.
24-hour day, is it? You think you can do that? Heck yeah. Other questions or comments on the letter, the exhibit? Alderperson Carpenter.
This isn't on the letter at all. It's Green Bay and telling us how many gallons of water, the difference.
Sure.
So do they test their meters that meter our water to say how many gallons is coming into them yearly, or are we just getting it where we have our meters tested? I'm asking, is the flow meters going where they're charging us? How often does that get tested by Green Bay? Can anybody answer that? Or
That's a good question, and we can look into that. But they are checked because, where every municipality is like, okay, what they do is they'll have like some situations you have a meter on the downstream as it leaves a community and a meter on the upstream as it comes in, because you'll have someone feeding in through, like Ledgeview may feed through us. Other times what they'll do is there'll be a meter and then they'll subtract off other meters. So they have a couple different ways, but we do have, we've had a lot of discussions about meters, where they go, who's paying for what. So we can definitely follow up on how often they calibrate their meters. But that was a big deal, when we were trying to figure some stuff out a couple of years ago. So we will.
No, I just.
Oh, it's absolutely a fair question.
When they get metered and when they get tested to see how accurate things are, because.
Absolutely.
I know what the water come from Manitowoc gets checked and everything else. So that was just a question of curiosity. Thank you very much.
And the intent was to provide a crude estimate.
Great, and I like this estimate here, but I just all of a sudden, how close are these meters actually, or how often they get tested? Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Yeah, this is big stuff, so we want to try to get this right, especially on it going out. Any other questions or comments in the letter? I'd make a motion to approve. I believe that's the recommendation, to approve the letter with the changes.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Ledvina. Any additional questions or comments? Do you have all the changes down that these guys were throwing out at you? Okay. All right, that said, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, consider impossible action on Alderperson Hansen's request regarding service sign on South Broadway. I know we brought this up before. Who wants to take it? Go ahead, Alderperson
I'll
Hansen.
start. Okay. So back in the spring, I had a constituent on the 700 block of South Michigan, which is near this sign, contact me with concerns about the appearance of the sign. The sign frame itself is kind of very weathered, and then the logos of the different service clubs are very faded. And she also had issues with the landscaping around it. Now, the city administrator did direct staff to clean up the landscaping, which they did. And then, and then at the bottom of the sign, it said welcome, but one of the E's was missing. So staff just removed all the letters instead of trying to replace the missing E. So now it just says DPMC and there's no welcome. So Andy Pansliff actually reached out to all the service clubs to kind of get their feedback, and it was very much a mixed response. The Kiwanis Club wants the sign. Oh, I should mention, backing up, there's another one of these signs at the Bicentennial Park on the west side. So there's two identical signs. Kiwanis Club wanted the signs removed and just either leave that space, green space, or maybe put something else there, but just take the existing signs down. Lions Club wanted to renovate the existing signs, but they admitted that they weren't able to find any group that might be able to take that on. And then the Men's Club wanted us to just replace the sign with a new sign. They did express some interest in making a financial contribution, maybe setting up a sign committee that would review designs for a new sign and kind of discuss what service club logos should be on the new sign, etc. So I just thought I'd bring this forward to the board to try to get some direction, since it's just kind of been in a status quo over the past year, and no one seems to have a clear idea of what direction we should go with this.
Thank you. You want direction from me? Take the signs down.
Take the signs down.
I mean, we're going to circle and circle and circle the drain. And these service clubs, and we're missing a few of them. Clearly, there's more on there than what we see. I think it was a nice thing that they did this and put it up, but I don't think it really serves a purpose. I'm not sure it brings people in to join these clubs looking at these signs.
And we have the new entrance signs now, too. So
we do.
Kind of undercut some of the purpose.
I think we've had enough, and I think it's time.
I would make a motion to take the signs down.
And I would second that, with the caveat that we would work on getting their little logos back to them.
Sure.
If they'd like them.
I'm good with that. If they like
that they can pick up at, MSC or wherever.
Jason took care of it.
Questions or comments? We have a motion, we have a second. Alderperson Carpenter.
So there's no attempt at trying to let the men's club see if they can come up with some solution or thought, and then to improve this or whatever, not at our cost.
Scott, like a last-ditch effort?
Well, I mean,
Yes.
the issue is you have all those service groups there. I mean, it's just trying to, if, do you go after one service group to save everything, or try to coordinate with all the service group to resurrect and redo the signs?
So as I read this, the men's club is interested. Why don't you allow the men's club to be the total driver of it all to see if they can get a hold of it, the other service groups, and if they come back and say we can't or we can't go no further, I have no problem asking them. I would just think, why wouldn't you let that club at least have a fair shake? Not that we have to get involved into it. Tell them our decision is they're going to come down. We give you X amount of time to see if you can rejuvenate this. You go out to these other clubs and you see what you can do and see where they come back, and just instead of just axing it completely today. That is just food for
Now,
thought.
doing so, you're saying you have to have a deadline of some sort. You have,
You are dead-
literally you have 2 months.
Yes, you have a deadline, and they come back and they say, yes, we want to do this, and this is what we are going to do.
Scott?
I really think if, because with the frost and everything in the ground, taking the stuff out, getting those signs out, if we don't do it right away, then your deadline would probably be, well, maybe next summer, we'll remove those signs, give you over to winter to come up with a plan. Otherwise, if we want them down soon, they would have to come out in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Alderperson Carpenter, I know Alderperson Rash has something too.
Well, the two that, you're correct, the frost and that, but they're not gonna you can take a chainsaw and cut them off a foot above the ground, and we can pull the rest of the pole out in the spring if we get frost before then.
Alderperson Rash?
I mean, if that's the case, I would modify my motion and give them until January 1st to come up with a plan. And then after January 1st, we just know we got to put it on the schedule to pull them out at whatever that appropriate time is.
And I agree. A few more months wouldn't hurt at all.
So if they want to take a stab at it, go ahead, but you have till January 1st to come up with a plan.
And since the men's club's the only one that really responded, we simply go to them. We're done chasing.
Right, and I would also say, letting them know that the other service clubs aren't interested. So it's really, if you want to save this for all the other service clubs, it's really up to you to do that. I think that might solidify their answer a little quicker.
Then we'd have to come back. That would coincide with our January meeting for Public Works. At that point, we'd have an answer, bring the item back again. We haven't done our last reach, and then we make the decision from there.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine. We can just take our motion and second out.
Yep.
I'm fine with that. Both of us are.
No, I would make the motion I see what you're saying.
We don't have to really
We won't need the motion then, because the motion would say, the city's intent is to remove the signs unless by January 1st, the men's club can come up with an alternative to save them. If they're not, the motion still stands and the vote still stands, and it would come down in the spring without having to come back and do it again.
Yep.
But if they come back with a plan, then we can revisit.
So why don't you just amend the original motion then?
That's what I did. Yeah.
Well, you said the original, okay. So, Betty, are you catching all this?
Yes.
Okay, so
Did I amend, Betty?
we're both in agreement that we're going to amend the original motion. I'm fine with what was stated.
Yep.
And then we don't have to come back again. If
Correct.
nothing comes to us January 1st,
Then we just move
it's
forward with
done.
the original motion.
Oh, okay. Scott?
So the way I understand the motion
No,
that was
you're wrong.
amended.
No, you're wrong.
Well, I mean, they shouldn't have to come back here at all. If we gave them a deadline of January 1st.
That's
we're all
what
on the
I'm
same
saying.
page. Yep,
Okay.
we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
shouldn't have to come back at all.
Okay.
They have
So
until
either-
January 1.
So either
Okay.
they come up with a solution by January 1.
Makes sense,
or
everybody
it gets
out there?
pulled out after that.
Chase,
Okay.
When
Eric,
appropriate in the springtime or whatever.
make sense?
You'll probably get 2,000 calls in this, Chase, but that's okay.
Alderperson Hansen, anything else on that?
No, that's good. I mean, I would be okay removing it now because, I mean, even if they do move forward, it sounds like they want to put up a new sign, but I'm okay with just leaving it until next spring.
All right.
And I just totally believe if they reach out to these other service groups as a service group, they may get a better response than we're getting out there. And if these service groups wants to do that, I think that's I have nothing wrong with these service groups having a sign like that. They do a lot for our community. They give a lot to our park department and other communities. So I just don't want to just cut them off like that, and then you may be getting cut
Now,
off.
that said, if they do the sign committee, they have to come up with a new sign, cost, connecting with the other service clubs,
Yes.
yada, 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 yada. We want this full.
Yes,
Okay.
that's my plan.
Right.
Good.
And that's the intent of the motion, too.
Very good. Very good. Other comments or questions? All right. Very well, everyone. That said, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, consider impossible action on Alderperson Hansen's request regarding WPS decorative street lighting on South Broadway and George Street. Alderperson Hansen.
Yeah, so staff did a really nice job the last couple years replacing all the city-owned decorative streetlights in the downtown with new light fixtures. I've heard from residents who like the new fixtures. It feels like, it has kind of a nice, warm, and welcoming vibe. It adds to the downtown. However, we still have a number of decorative streetlights in the downtown on both sides. On the east side, for instance, everything south of George Street on Broadway, and then almost all of George Street, along with South Wisconsin by Walgreens, that have the old light fixtures. And that's because WPS owns those lights. We've asked WPS to replace the light fixtures with our new ones, and we would donate the new fixtures, but they refused and said that they would only replace it with one of 3 fixtures that are their approved fixtures. So I asked staff to look into what options we have to get the lighting to be all consistent in the downtown. And unfortunately, the only option is for WPS to sell the entire lighting system to us, and the cost, as you can see, is very expensive. So. Now, I didn't realize before until this agenda that one of their options, the Paragon, does actually
Pretty darn
look
close,
very
isn't it?
close to ours.
It's like really close. I mean, I looked at the same thing today. It's like, I kind
Yes.
of like that one.
Yes.
And if they're going to pay
thought
for
it
it,
was- I
that's
thought
what we
it
go
was
for.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks.
It's really close.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I guess my question then to Scott would be, would they be willing to proactively replace those fixtures with this Paragon within, the next year or so? And I mean, the fixtures that are there right now, they aren't as bright in part because there is this kind of film of kind of grime on it. And so, I mean, I think it is kind of time for them to get replaced anyway.
Scott?
WPS, when we inquired on it, they would start replacing them as they burn out.
As they
So
burn
they
out,
wouldn't
okay.
do what we did and take them all down. So as one burns out, they would replace it with the whatever style we want.
So were you guys thinking go through the city and help burn them out? Is that what you're doing?
No, I never.
This is a recorded meeting.
Uh-huh. Scott?
I mean, if the board would, is okay with, telling WPS we'd like the fixtures to be replaced with a Paragon, we can let them know that. And then it'd be up to them, whether, how many they replace a year, or if all, at least it's in their court. Because right now, they don't have any direction, which way to go.
So on my 80th birthday, it should all be done.
Next year? No. So I think I'm okay with going Paragon and then put it to WPS, and maybe they have some generosity and it's like, hey, we found $500K and we're just going to do it all right now. You never know. No?
Well, I don't think it's $500K just for the fixtures. No.
Okay, well.
That would be if they sold us all the underground
all the stuff, that's
wiring
right,
and
everything, yes. So
and
the
the
fixture
poles.
shouldn't be that bad then. Maybe
No.
it won't be bad then. Throw
No.
a different number out then. 60K. Do we need any kind of motion on this?
All right.
Alderperson Hansen, make the motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to have staff request that WPS replace the existing fixtures with the Paragon design fixture going forward.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Hansen, second by Alderperson Ledmanda. Any additional discussion and/or comments? Alderperson Rash.
Do we really need to take action on this item just to tell staff to suggest to WPS that type of? I mean, it's almost like we're not really making a decision to
That's true.
buy because the action really is.
It's possible action. It's not in.
Yeah, it's either we're supporting this to go after them or we're not, and we're kind of just telling WPS, can't we just do that without an action? I'm just asking. I don't carry.
No,
that.
it's fine. Scott.
The only thing is it's a recommendation from the board, because as far as why the existing fixtures got replaced with the, we'll call it the Paragon, was just the direction that the board gave staff to give WPS. That's what we want to choose going forward.
So then a follow up to that, I'm okay with that. That makes sense. But why didn't we coordinate the lights that we were buying with what WPS had for an option? And why wasn't that decision made up front?
It's a very good question.
That's why I asked it.
We weren't aware of the lights that WPS are going, what they carry.
Okay.
What we did is, as you recall, we met with definitely the parent. I believe we brought the fixtures here for the board to kind of decide, these are fixtures we want to replace with our lights. I don't think we were aware with the fixtures that they had until Alderperson Hansen inquired about replacing those lights, and that's what they presented to us.
It's a good question. Other questions or comments?
Well,
Seeing there is none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Up next, future agenda items. Anyone have anything? Alderperson Carpenter.
Yes, I'd like to go have that park and traffic look into the, on Helena Street right now, you have a police order, temporary, no parking, temporary police order. A restriction on Helena Street.
I think it's for football.
And my question I'd like to see, because I have a resident complaining over there, could that become permanent? No parking on that side of the street for the safety of the kids in the school? Because his concern is the school is now, that's their main traffic area, one of their main traffic areas on Helena Street. And he thinks somebody's gonna get hurt going in between cars being moved back and forth on each side of the road.
Eric,
Just to clarify, so are you talking on one side, both sides?
One side, so it would be the south side.
South side. And then are there certain limits you're looking at, just by the school or from 6th to, just so I know?
At least, and I don't know how other residents feel. So this is a little catch-22 in how the school totally feels. This individual said he had discussions, and I don't know how much I can talk here, but had discussion with the school about safety concerns and many other things he brought up to me. But I'll take care of one at a time here. And that was one. And I didn't have to drive back down. I went there at his house the other day, and I didn't quite pay enough attention how far it went down. If it went from
It goes a few blocks. I just walked over there today it's almost from 6th all the way up to,
it goes past Friendship, so it goes,
Yeah.
what's the next street to the left then, Eric, past the outward?
yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's one block past Outward up yet too, going west.
And you're talking during events
I
that you
think that's
see
what
the
that
parking?
parking is.
Because during the day, I don't notice a lot. There's a couple cars that park right next to where they can walk in on the new driveway. But other than that, I don't see a lot during the day. But yeah, we can definitely take a look at.
No, it's not, yes, it is right now for events. But his concern was when you get all the traffic stopping in the morning and everybody crossing streets and everything. So, would you just look into it for me?
so there are certain hours you're looking at of the day.
I'm
I'm just trying to help clarify this so he has direction. That's why I'm allowing the latitude here, so.
Yes,
keep
probably more hours, like in the morning, the drop-offs and the pickups in the afternoon. I haven't monitored it. I haven't gone over there and looked myself personally.
and that's
at
what they'll do then,
At
yeah,
that time. You know what I mean? I just went there and he had other issues and this was one of them. Seeing Tony in the morning on another issue, so.
Thank you. Does that?
Yes,
Then he has
yes.
good direction,
You just-
good guidance for both of you? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Other future agenda items? Seeing there is none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson Rash. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're officially adjourned and mics are off.